Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today I will analyze the case of Ashlee Long. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the crime, then offer my analysis. Ashlee Long was born on June 3, 1996, and was raised in Houston, Texas. In 2019, she graduated from the University of Houston with a bachelor's degree in business administration. She worked as a real estate agent. Ashlee was romantically involved with a man named Jacob, who she had met in high school. At some point, the couple became engaged. Now moving to the timeline of the crime. On Saturday, April 5, 2025, at about 2:30 a.m., 28-year-old Ashlee Long and a 36-year-old man named William Kistler left a bar on Main Street in downtown Dallas. Evidently, Ashlee was in Dallas on a networking trip. Based on surveillance video, it appears as though William was involved in some type of argument with someone else on the street. Ashlee wanted William to disengage. She simply wanted to leave the area, but William appeared to be determined to prolong the confrontation. He crossed Main Street to continue the argument before he and Ashlee started walking east on Main Street. As they were crossing from the south side of Main Street to the north side, William brushed his hand along the passenger side of a Mercedes sedan that was passing by them. The Mercedes came to a sudden stop, presumably in response to the contact William made with the vehicle. At this point, William could be seen frantically reaching into Ashlee's purse in an apparent effort to retrieve his firearm. It was a semi-automatic pistol chambered in .40 caliber S&W. It's not clear why Ashlee was carrying William's gun, but the reason may have been related to William being a convicted felon. He was not allowed to possess a firearm. 7 seconds after the Mercedes stopped, as William was still trying to get his pistol, a 34-year-old passenger named Kendrick Finch exited. A firearm could be seen in his right hand. His weapon was a semi-automatic pistol chambered in 9mm Luger. Kendrick kept his pistol down by his side as William retrieved his own firearm from Ashlee. Based on the video surveillance, it appears as though William started moving toward Kendrick with the gun in his possession, but William did not point the gun at Kendrick. At this point, Kendrick pointed his weapon at William and Ashlee, who were standing right next to each other, and fired 8 times. Ashlee was struck once in the right part of her chest and once in her right hip. She was taken to Baylor University Medical Center, where she was pronounced dead at 3:04 a.m. William was struck 1 time in his lower left leg and survived the shooting. As Kendrick was firing, William fired 3 rounds from his pistol. Kendrick was not struck during the shooting. William Kistler was arrested and charged with unlawful possession of a firearm by a felon. Kendrick Finch fled the scene. He called the police a few hours later and admitted to being the shooter. However, he did not turn himself into the police until April 18, almost 2 weeks later. Kendrick was charged with murder. On May 13, 2025, he was released after posting a $500,000 bond. At the time I'm making this video, Kendrick is working his way through the legal system. Now moving to my analysis. Kendrick Finch maintains his innocence, and he has quite a few supporters. At a bond hearing, his attorney argued that William is the one who provoked the situation, and Kendrick acted in self-defense. The state, of course, disagrees. They believe that Kendrick introduced the weapon first and opened fire first. Therefore, they maintain that he is guilty of murder. This brings me to the question, was Kendrick guilty of murder? Let's take a look at the evidence both for and against the idea that he was guilty, starting with the inculpatory factors. When Kendrick exited the passenger side of the Mercedes sedan, he was holding a pistol in his right hand. Even though William was attempting to retrieve his pistol at this time, Kendrick was the first person to introduce the weapon into the situation. He was the first one to display a weapon. If Kendrick displayed a pistol just because William touched the vehicle in which he was riding, then Kendrick's behavior represented a disproportionately aggressive response to William's behavior. Based on the video surveillance, it appears as though Kendrick discharged his weapon first. William never pointed his pistol at Kendrick at any point during the confrontation. Even if Kendrick believed that William was a threat, he should have known that Ashlee was not. She was actively and visibly trying to defuse the situation. Kendrick ended up shooting Ashlee twice, killing her, while only striking William once. Kendrick must take responsibility for where the bullets fired from his gun traveled. After the shooting, Kendrick fled from the scene. Later, when he was advised that a warrant had been issued for his arrest, he still waited several days before surrendering. Now moving to the exculpatory factors. William Kistler was a convicted felon who had Ashlee Long keep his firearm in her purse. He was not allowed to possess a gun. Having someone else hold the gun is still a crime. It is referred to as constructive possession. In addition, William had a long criminal history, some of which involved violence. For example, in April 2018, William was charged with theft of services. In November 2018, he was charged with assault causing bodily injury to a family member. In March 2019, he was charged with violating a protective order or bond conditions in a domestic violence case. In May 2019, William was indicted on a charge of burglary of a habitation. In July 2022, he was charged in connection with a vehicle collision, and in July 2023, William received another theft charge. It seems pretty clear that William was bad news. This is someone who may have been looking for trouble. Kendrick Finch was in the lawful possession of his pistol. He had some run-ins with the law earlier in his life, including burglary and drug charges, but he had never been convicted of a felony. Therefore, Kendrick was allowed to possess a firearm. He may have fled the scene after the shooting, but he called 911 right away and said he was the shooter. If he had not done this, the police may have never identified him. The confrontation between William and Kendrick was initiated by William. He touched the front passenger side of the Mercedes sedan. There was no reason to do this. Any reasonable person would understand how this could provoke a confrontation. Kendrick was not the driver of the Mercedes sedan. Rather, he was a passenger. He may have had nothing to do with the decision to stop the vehicle. Perhaps Kendrick was thrown into this dangerous situation against his will. Kendrick did not exit the Mercedes sedan until 7 seconds after the vehicle came to a stop. It wasn't like he immediately charged out of the vehicle holding his pistol. One could argue that his behavior was not an overly aggressive response, and he had the right to investigate the car-touching incident. During the 7 seconds when Kendrick was still in the vehicle, William was trying to retrieve a pistol that was in Ashlee's purse. Maybe by using the rearview mirror or by looking over his shoulder, Kendrick saw William trying to retrieve the pistol. This may have been what prompted Kendrick to exit the Mercedes with a pistol in his hand. He may have been responding to a perceived threat introduced by William. It seems pretty clear from the video surveillance that Ashlee was trying to hold William back, as if she wanted him to disengage. Why would that be necessary if William was not being aggressive? Furthermore, just a few minutes earlier, Ashlee had tried to de-escalate another confrontation involving William. This seems to be a pattern with William. He was looking for a fight. Perhaps Kendrick saw that Ashlee was trying to hold William back and reasonably assumed that William was being aggressive. Ashlee's behavior only reinforced Kendrick's belief that William was dangerous. Initially, Kendrick kept his pistol by his side. He did not point the pistol at William or Ashlee. Only after William retrieved his pistol did Kendrick open fire. It does appear as though Kendrick fired his weapon first, but right before he fired, William advanced toward him with a pistol in his hand. William did not point the pistol at Kendrick, but that doesn't mean it was unreasonable for Kendrick to believe that William was a threat. It is true that Kendrick shot and killed Ashlee, a woman who was trying to de-escalate the situation. Furthermore, it is true that Kendrick must be responsible for where his bullets traveled. However, Ashlee was standing right next to William. By doing so, she placed herself in danger. Just because she was near William doesn't mean that Kendrick was forced to remain idle and risk being shot by William. Kendrick always maintained the right to defend himself, regardless of where Ashlee decided to stand. When considering all the evidence in this case, do I believe that Kendrick Finch was guilty of murder? This case is a close call. I can understand why the state believes that Kendrick is guilty, but he can make a powerful argument for self-defense. I think sometimes what happens in cases like this is the state charges whoever ends up victorious in the shootout. If William shot and killed Kendrick, but no one else was hit, like Ashlee was not killed, it seems likely the state would have charged William with murder. They would have said that he provoked the situation. There is the sense that Kendrick was charged simply because he survived the gunfight. In my opinion, Kendrick Finch is not guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. I think his argument for self-defense is sufficient to create reasonable doubt in this case. That does not mean I think Kendrick acted wisely. He did not. It was extremely foolish for him to ever get out of the Mercedes. However, he did not break the law by exiting the vehicle, and he was standing in a place he was legally allowed to be when William moved toward him holding a pistol. Moving to the next question, what do I think happened in this case? This is just a theory, my opinion. William Kistler was a troublemaker who illegally owned a firearm and made sure it was within reach while visiting a bar and while walking on the street. Ashlee was engaged to another man, but for some reason she was out with William at 2:30 a.m. on a Saturday. She was supposed to be in Dallas for networking. Was spending time with William part of this? Ashlee made the unwise decision of agreeing to keep William's firearm in her purse. When they were in the bar, Ashlee was technically committing a crime because in Texas a person cannot bring a firearm into a bar. This is taken pretty seriously there. It is a third-degree felony, punishable by up to 10 years in prison. Furthermore, if Ashlee knew that William was a convicted felon, then she was committing a felony by holding his gun for him. By choosing to commit one or two felonies that night, Ashlee placed herself in unnecessary danger. Furthermore, she was with a man who was looking for trouble. William argued with someone on the street before deliberately provoking the occupants of the Mercedes by touching the vehicle. As soon as the Mercedes stopped, William reached into Ashlee's purse to get his gun. He had little reason to believe that his life was in danger at this point. His intent was to be threatening. Kendrick decided to exit the Mercedes when remaining in the vehicle was a much better idea. He had his pistol in his right hand by his side. He may have done this because of William's threatening behavior, or Kendrick may have been trying to be a tough guy. When William approached Kendrick holding a pistol, Kendrick fired in self-defense. His intended target was William, but he also struck Ashlee. Kendrick fled the scene because William was still an active threat, or he did so to escape responsibility. There is no way to know for certain. Either way, he did call 911 and identify himself as the shooter. Due to William's aggressive behavior, reasonable doubt was created in this case. It is possible that Kendrick could avoid a murder conviction, but whether he is convicted or not, he should not be pleased with his behavior. Bad decisions on the part of everyone involved contributed to this disaster. Those are my thoughts on the case of Ashlee Long. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon.